So today we are going to talk about transport collection, okay, and not only about transport collection but also about all the information related to the transports we are going to discuss in today's session, okay. So first thing, so how now I in BW system and in HANA in BW system I will let you know how to collect BW objects, okay. Uh, so what kind of objects we are going to see now? I will let you know about info objects collection, okay, DSO collection or ADSO collection, composite and transformations, DTPs and query collection. I will provide you information about all these objects collection and how we can collect it and what was the sequence when moving these object transports to the next system. So first of all, let's start about what is a transport. So what is exactly transport in BW system? So we create transports in BW system to move our developments from one system to another. It means in a landscape. So what is landscape means? In real-time environment, we generally perform developments. Like for example, I have a requirement to create a data flow for sales. So then what I will do, I will create some info objects for it. Then on top of it, I will create some DSOs. On top of it, I will create some, composite providers and report. So this is my entire sales flow. Now, where you did this development, you performed this development on development environment. Okay. So in development environment, we will have a very little amount of data to perform testing on this data flow. At the end, after you performed the development, so the user has to test this flow, at least test this report and checks whether this report is meeting his requirements or not. So, so it is difficult for anyone to perform the testing on development environment because of lack of data quality or lack of data. Okay, so in real-time environment, parallel to development system, we will have multiple other systems, copy systems. So we will have test system and we will have production system. In general, minimum three will be there, definitely, sometimes two also, based upon the client. So let's take a scenario where I have a development system, test system and production system. So this is my landscape. So BW dev system, BW test system and BW production system. So production system is nothing but where regular transactional data all will be loaded and finally users consumes reports on top of this system where we have almost final data. Okay, so regular data loads happens at in production system. So this is our end. So whatever you performing developments, at the end these developments, your target is to move to production system so that users will consume from there. Okay, so initially as a step one, you perform developments on your development system and you will do some unit testing on top of it. Okay, then whenever you feel that okay, developments are looking fine and you want user to test your report so that to confirm your developments are correct or not. So to perform those, what generally we do is we will move our developments whatever we did from one system to another. So movement means is nothing but not cut and paste, like the objects will be there like this only, but we will move the copy of it to the next BW test environment. So what is the use of test environment? Generally, test environment will contain more data compared to development system. Okay, and almost BW test environment will contain similar data to production. So why I am saying is similar, it means from BW production system, clients means basis will copy some set of data into test so that whatever data is there in BW test almost similar to production data but not live data. It won't contain all the data from production, but at least some set of data will be available in our test environment so that users will perform testing in test environment and they will check whether the report is working as expected to their requirements or not. So users will perform UAT. So we will call it as UAT. So whatever you are doing in our development system is nothing but unit testing from developer point of view. okay, to check the functionality. But when you move the test developments to test environment, in the test environment we will perform testing, not we, but the users will perform testing and check their report correctness. So this is called UAT, user acceptance test. Once user found everything is fine, then what we will get go sign off from the user. Once we get sign off from the user to move our developments to production, then the transports will move to production, means copy of it will be moved to production. So copy means not from test, but same from development to production moment will happen. Okay, so this is the landscape. So once we move to production, generally we uh, yeah, from there hypercare will be there, and users will start using the report. That's a different concept, later we talk. But initially the important point is we will perform developments on development environment and then move to test environment, and from there after getting UAT approval we will move the developments to the production environment. This is generally what happens either in a support project or in a development project. Whatever it may be, when we moving objects to throughout our landscape, we will take care of this action. Okay, so now for this moment we need to collect our developments in a transport. So movement means how we are going to move these objects from one system to another system. We have to collect, we must collect all these objects in a transport request. Okay, so that what we will do is we will release the transport request to the corresponding system. And in the backend, basis team will create a connection between one to another. So in the backend, basis team will create a connections to one system to another. So they will create a, for example, this is your BW dev, and there is your BW test box. So database or box, whatever it may be. So for example, if you consider this as one box, one system, and this is another system, then basis team will connect, will do mapping from here to here. So the transports, whatever you release on BW dev will be moved to the BW test system. In the same fashion, whenever you release from BW dev, they will create one more connection parallel to test system to production. Okay, one important point to remember here is, in a transport, when I say release, I am using a word called release. Okay, so what is release? Release is just releasing from our development system, means this contains the development environment snapshot. Okay, but to get this data objects into test and UAT test environment, we need to perform one extra activity called import. Okay, so two activities must be performed. One, releasing from the system is one first activity, and then importing from the system, importing on the target system. So release happen on the source system, which is nothing but BW dev, and import will happen on the target system, that is at a BW test system. Okay, these two actions must be performed to get the objects into test environment. In the similar way, if you want your objects to move to production environment, so already you released the data. When this objects moving to test environment, you already did release once. So you imported the data into test environment so that you will get the objects in test environment. And to get the same objects into production environment, now you need to perform only the second step, that is import in the production environment. Okay, import must happen on the target environment. So this you must understand clearly. So okay, so when we moving transports, so there are two steps are there in the moving transports. One is release, another one is import. Release happens on the source system side, import happens on the target system side. If you have five systems on your landscape, whichever system you want the objects to be moved, on those systems you must import those TRs. Okay, and we have special T codes for there to import the transports. And in some of the clients, they will have separate tools to perform this activity. In few clients may have do manual activity, like our IT people will do manual activity of this release and import. And in few of the client projects, we will have separate tools, like SSM is one of the tool, solution manager, and charm tool. Charm is another tool where we handle the transports. Okay, These are the two examples which I know. Maybe there are some other examples also. But at the end, our goal here is to understand what is transport and what are the actions we perform on the transport, and what is the need of doing transport movement. Okay, so this point we covered so far. Next, what we are going to cover is how to collect the objects in a transport, because we already know what is a transport means and how to import into next systems, at least theoretically. Now I will tell you where to create a transport, how to collect objects in a transport. So moving to that point now. So to collect transports, to create first of all, to collect transport, first of all, we need to create a transport. So creating transport request. So let's see how to create a transport request. To create a transport request, we need to use a transaction code called SC09 or SC01 also we use. But generally I habituated to use SC09. So I am going to SC09 /n SC09. So if you go to /SC09, if you see here, we have multiple options are there. When you creating a new TR, you can create TR in two ways. One is two types: customizing request, workbench request. Okay. So generally, when we move the objects like info object transformation, DTP and all those will be comes under workbench request. Remember, okay, when we creating a TR to collect any info object or DSO or any query and all, generally we always create workbench request. Okay, customization request will be created sometimes, like for example, any just planning objects. Most of the planning objects we will collect on customizing request. So if you ask the difference between workbench and request, I don't know, but I'm telling you what exactly happens. If you want to collect info objects, DSOs and all, always create workbench request. Okay. Now my requirement is to create a workbench request. How to create a workbench request? So in our transport connection SC09 T code. So now what I'm going to do is, one second. Yeah. So here I have a new button, right? New, create. So click on this create button. If you click on this create button, you see workbench request, customization request, and below we have some other. We won't discuss about these options, okay, currently. So now our requirement is to create a workbench request. So select this radio button, click on OK, and then you will prompt to this screen. Okay, so let's give some description. Okay, so description, data source. But you can give the description as per, for example, if you are working on an enhancement, or if you are working on a new change request, or if you are working on a fresh developments, so you must go with one proper naming convention. For example, if you are creating some developments as part of enhancement, and where we have some anything ID generated to this enhancement, technical ID, you can use those technical IDs here for the naming convention. Or if you are creating a flow, a new flow, then give the new flow. For example, sales flow. I'm going to collect my sales flow. So you can give sales flow, and I'm going to collect my data sources now into it. So sales flow data sources. I'm giving some description. So giving description, proper description, very important. Okay, if you give junk kind of a description, later it is difficult for you to understand what exactly objects you collected here, unless you go inside and check everything. Okay, so I given the short text description, and in sometimes in some of the projects you need to give the project number also, which you will get from your your team. So I'm not talking about project, I am clicking clicking on save. That's it. Okay, so this is how to create a transport request manually. But as I said, for transport management, generally in some of the projects we use SSM tool or charm tool. When you go with these tools, completely you have a different mechanism to create the transport. You will create the transport also from these tools only. Okay, so you must have knowledge, at least you will get KT from your team on how to use these tools, so that you can create at that time. But in our session, since I don't have any SSM charm installed on my system, I am telling you how to create a transport. But at the end, whether you use the tools or you create manually, you will have one TR on your SC09 on your name. My username here is S4BPC1. On your name, there will be one TR if you created. Okay. Now I will, from here, the process is same. How to collecting everything is same. Creating may be little bit different if you have the tool access. You see here, I have a workbench request and this is a modifiable request, and then it is the TR number. So if you see now I created a TR. So this is my TR number. Parent node. This is parent node. This is child node. Parent node is nothing but main TR and the child node is nothing but sub TR. Okay. Under parent node, you have only one level, not multiple levels. Only one level of a child will be there. Multiple childs will be there. So all the childs under this parent node are nothing but subtasks. Main one is main tier and below are subtasks. Okay. Next. So if you see here, this subtask is currently in a state called unclassified. Okay. So there are two different types of types will be there. One is if you go here and change, one second, add user, change owner, request, change type. So a subtask, you see, change task type. This is nothing but task. So a task can be development or correction or repair. So when you are doing a new developments, all will be collected under development task. And if you are already having a development and you are doing changes in it, then those will be collected under repair task. Currently, it is on unclassified. If you want, you can change it to one or leave it like that. It will take care when we are creating when collecting the objects. So far what we covered, how to create a tier, and after creating tier, what is the main tier, what is the subtask we learned so far. So now next point. So next step is how to collect objects. So I am telling you now how to collect a data source into a transport request. So let's see. After collecting the data source into the transport request, I will let you know what is the sequence of objects to be moved to next system. So what sequence we must follow is our next point. But first point is how to collect a data source in a transport request. So I am going to my SAP system. So in my SAP system, let's say I said one data flow, sales flow I said. So let's take this flow as a sales flow. Okay. Let's consider the sales flow and below it I have one data source. So I am collecting my data source. So this is my data source technical name. Okay. So this is my data source technical name. So select your copy your data source technical name and where we collect transports. So we collect transports from transaction code RS7. In RS7 we have an option called transport connection. Okay. From transport connection we collect transports. So next, so after going to this transport connection, you see, I have 1 minute. Sometimes you may not see screen exactly like this. Okay. Sometimes what will happen is you may see screen like this also blank, or you may see whatever I said last time. Okay. So after you come into transport connection option, you may not see earlier screen. So what we need to do is here under SAP transport, you must select object types. When you select object types, so you will see all the different type of objects that are available in our SAP BW system. These are different type of objects. Okay, na? So now our requirement is to collect the data source. So now I need to verify where I have data source kind of type. So where is data source? You see, I don't see. Yeah, data source. So this is the place where data source type it is defined. Okay. Now expand this one. Now here select objects. Double click on the select objects. How come? Yeah, it's again a bad thing. 1 minute. So when you double click, actually what will happen when you double click on any of these selected objects kind, for example, if you want to collect transformation, you must expand transformation and double click on select objects. So when you click on any select objects button, generally it will open a window in this format. Okay. From here you need to select it, but I don't know what happened here. When I am selecting the select objects now, it is not asking that pop-up window. Okay, so it's my bad. I don't know how to connect it, how to bring it now. And one more point. So one more point in this transport connection, always remember, here you see there are two more options are there: source system assignment and source system conversion. So go to the source system assignment and you see from here, better to select all. Okay, just select all and click on OK. Okay. Now double click on select objects. Now it came. Earlier something it was not selected, that's why it is not coming. You see when you double click on select objects, you will get this kind of transport connection. Okay. At the same time, when you select searching somewhere in the okay, sorry, let's continue. Now my wish is to collect one data source. So I have many data sources here. So it's for sometimes it is very difficult to search manually, or you can use the search button also to search it. But if you are trying to collect only one object, go to search option, give your data source name, click on OK. So it will highlight the particular data source name. So this is the data source name. Double click on it. It will come to the right hand side. One unnecessary came here. I am removing to the left hand side. It will come. Okay. Or else again double click here. Select either double click on the one which you want to bring or select it and then click on transfer selection. Both will perform same action. Okay. So finally I got whatever I want to collect into my right side screen. So from here it is important. So you need to check properly whether the technical name is matching or not. So it's matching with your requirement. So let me go to my SAP screen and check. Yeah, sales underscore 2 underscore ODP. Yeah, it was properly there. From coming from which source system A4H, this is fine. And important point to verify is package. When we create any object in BW system, generally the objects will be collected under temporary package. It creates as a local object which is collected under temporary package $temp. Okay. In order to move our objects from one system to another system, you must keep the objects in one package. What I am saying, package. Okay, so this is important. So for that reason, definitely in each and every project, if it is already existing project, generally you will have at least an existing package which to be used for your objects. Okay, so in my scenario, I have a package called GBW. Now you see whatever object you wish to collect, you must select this checkbox. If this checkbox is enabled, then when you click on this transport symbol, which is a little above this in the header, if you click on this transport symbol, you see it will ask you assign a package. $temp objects will not transport to other system. So definitely you must collect them in one package. So I have one package called GBW. So I am using that package and clicking on save. So whenever the objects are collecting under one package, system will prompt you to provide the TR number. Okay. So now it is asking for the TR number. In this process, what is the heading? Prompt for transportable workbench request. So go to own request, select your TR number. So this is my TR number. So double click on the TR number, click on OK. You see here you will see green color, which is successful. And if you refresh here, you can see currently it was $temp, right? But when you refresh the screen, now it will be changed to GBW. So package, it got changed to GBW, and you see on the transport request column, now you are able to see a transport number also. Now after collecting from SC09, it is mandatory for you to come to SC09 one more time to verify whether the objects got collected properly or not. Okay, it is a very must step I can say. Some people will do, some won't do, but it is important. So if you come here, you see under the task, now your data source was collected. And earlier this task name was written as customized, unclassified. But when we collected some objects in it, since this is a new object, that's why it is giving the name as development and your data source got collected here. Okay, so this is how we collect objects into the TR. So this is the same approach we will follow for others also. For example, if you want to collect info objects, expand info objects tab, select all the fields and then do the click on transport symbol and it will ask you for package and you will give the after that it will ask for transport number. In that way you need to collect it. I will show you anyhow. As promised, after showing the data source collection, so next point what we see is we must learn the sequence. When we moving our data flow into the next landscape, into the test environment, we must know on which sequence we must transport our objects. Okay, this is very must and should must important step, and it is an important interview question also. They will ask you in what sequence you will move your objects to the next environment. So for example, if I have info objects, DSO, ADSO, composite, transformation, DTP query. So first and data source. If I consider these objects, I will tell you how I will follow. So it's up to you like how you will follow. But I will let you know what I mean. For example, if I have these objects, so always first you need to collect. First you have to move your info objects. Why? Because info objects are the no, before info objects, info area. Info area is the starting point for any of our development. So first we will create one info area. Under that we will create our info objects. So first info area has to move, then info objects has to move, and after this, after info objects, you must move providers. Okay, I'm not writing about any ADSO or composite providers. I'm telling it means because providers will be created on top of info objects. So dependency check, it is important. Info objects are created under info area. So info area is the parent for info object. That's why info area must go first, and then info object second, and providers. Before sending providers, you must send all the info objects you are using in the providers. That's why info object second and info providers third. Okay, so after sending info provider successfully, then you can send transformation and DTP. Why? Because transformation and DTP are created between providers, correct? That's the reason you can move the transformation and DTPs as a fourth priority. And then once you have everything ready, then you can move queries as a last step. Okay, so when moving queries, it is important to collect the corresponding RKFs and CKFs also along with it if they are new. Okay. So this is the sequence of objects to be moved to production environment or any other landscape when collecting in a transport. Okay, so is it correct to collect everything under one transport? Yeah, it is fine to collect everything under one transport, but better to differentiate our transports, based on in this way, so that what will happen is your transports will not fail. Okay, and you also have clarity and proper visibility to see whether your objects are moving properly or not. Okay, for example, when you are moving providers TR, if it is failed, then it is not a good way to move the second TR, which is dependent on providers. Okay, that's the reason we will move TR once, provider TRs once, and if it is successful, then we go for transformations and DTP TR, transport request TR means. So this is sequence. Now problem here is calculation views. So calculation views also will be created under TRs, or else we will talk about, simply I will let you know as we are in this point. So when you are using calculation views in your flow, for example, what will happen is if your calculation view is consuming any ADSO, okay, or ADSO. In that scenario, what you need to do before sending these providers, you must select your calculation view and then send your providers. Okay, so dependency check must be very important here, and we can talk about this point at the end also, but at this point of time I want to cover at this level. That's it. So as promised, we discussed about the sequence of objects to be moved, what sequence we must follow. So next we quickly jump into to see how to collect the